and we are at EMO's Creative Studio. And this video is going to be a little bit different than most of the tutorial videos that I make for you. As a matter of fact, this kind of video is the beginning of several videos that I'm going to make for you. And I'm calling these videos my journey videos. And a journey video for me is taking you along with me on my journey when I make new projects. So the first project that I'm going to tackle is making a rag quilt. Now, I belong to a rag quilt group on Facebook, and I've been a member for a couple of months now, and I really enjoy seeing all the rag quilts that these ladies and men make and take pictures and post them on Facebook. This particular rag quilt is made by Pam Green. She is a member of our quilting rag quilting group. Thank you, Pam, for letting me use your picture to show what a rag quilt looks like. So, a little history of rag quilts. They were started back in 1700s, back in the Civil War era. And at that time, rag quilts were really made from rags. Worn clothing, frayed blankets that were put together to make new blankets, not only for the bed, but to make window coverings and door coverings. But in the last 30-40 years, we've become a little bit more modern in making our rag quilts, and now we go out and buy fabric to cut up into squares or rectangles or other geometric designs, including strips, to put together rag quilts. And I'll throw in a couple of other pictures of rag quilts in the non-traditional square type blocks. So my idea was to make a rag quilt. I've never made a quilt for me personally. Yeah, I've got that quilt back there that I made for our bed, and I've got another one that I made for our wedding bed, and I've made other quilts that I've given away, I've gifted, I've given up for donation to make auctions in charitable groups, but I've never made a quilt for me specifically. And because I really was intrigued by this rag quilt system or design, I decided that I was going to make one. I looked around at layer cakes, which are 10-inch square pieces of fabric, about 42 of them placed into a package, and I didn't like any of the designs that I saw. So I decided to go with yardage. So I went to my local craft store that carries fabric, and I bought a print and I bought a solid, and I decided I was going to make myself a 10-inch square rag quilt. I've never made a rag quilt before, and I've definitely never worked with flannel before. So let me stop talking and let's get going. Oh, I want to tell you that we're going to start this video maybe a third way through my process, because I've had the fabric for about 2 months. I don't like to cut fabric, but it takes me a while to cut it up. You know, I take my time because I don't want to make any mistakes. So we're going to start off after the cutting process, and then we're going to go on. Some of my journey videos may take 2, 3, or 4 different parts. So just be patient, follow me, and you know what? Let's get going. So when I decided to do this rag quilt, I had no intention of videotaping any of the processes because I felt it was a very easy, simple process. But in the meantime, I started thinking, what the heck? Why not? But instead of it being a learning tutorial, why don't I make it a journey? So again, you can see my frustrations and how I piece it together and how I work it. I've had this fabric for about 2 months now. I've already started the process, so I'm going to bring you to speed. I think I'm a third or a quarter of the way through. As you can see here, I've got 2 piles. I've got actually 5 piles. let me go in order of these piles. So what I have here are two different types of fabric. They're all flannel. Let's see if you can see it. They're all flannel. One is a patterned flannel, which is this one. I bought this at one of the larger chain crafting stores that carry fabric. I liked it because it was very neutral, very pastel. We're in the process of remodeling our home, so I wanted to make sure that whatever I made for this quilt, it would match up whatever color I decided to paint our living area. Then I decided to get a solid, and I wanted to get a solid, not white, because you know I've got dogs, I've got a new puppy. I don't want it to get dirty so quickly. So I got like a cream, ivory cream. It's more like a cream. So these two together, I was going to alternate pattern, solid, pattern, solid, pattern. As a matter of fact, I actually put a set together to see how it would look. And this is one row. It's a pattern, solid, pattern, solid, pattern, solid. I believe it's 3 patterns and 3 solids. It measures 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 59, 59, 58, 56, 54, maybe about 50, 54 inches wide, and that's good enough for me. I'm going to make it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks across, one row, and then I'm going to make it either 7 or 8 rows long. I'm not following a pattern, I'm just throwing it together using my brain power. So when I originally bought the fabric, I bought a couple of yards, 2-3 yards of the print and a couple of 2-3 yards of the solid. Well, lo and behold, I'm going to need more solid because each one of the blocks, whether it's solid and or print, is going to have a solid backing. And let me show you. Here is a block that has 2 pieces together like this. Print in the front, solid in the back. So when you turn the rag quilt around to the back side, it's all going to be this color. But when you have it in the front where you have all of the ragging, the seams, it's going to be pattern, solid, pattern, solid, pattern. So what I've done is I have a pile of pattern and I have a giant pile of solid. These are put together in this manner. So let me bring these things out again. First of all, all of these squares, all of the flannel squares are cut out to 10 inches square. Oh, sure, I could have gotten layer cakes, but 1, I didn't find anything that I really liked. 2, I really didn't feel like spending that kind of money. So I went ahead and bought this fabric. I think it was like $6 a yard, but of course using the coupons, because I'm learning how to use coupons now, I was able to get it about 25–40% less a yard. So it was a great buy. Again, I cut all the fabric up. I cut all the batting up. The fabric is 10 inches square, as you can see here. What I do is I line it up to the grid lines right here. I don't pick any number. I just want my bottom of my square to be even on a grid line, and the top on the side, the left-hand side, because I'm left-handed, equal up to a line. You could equal it up to the right hand if you want. Now the batting, when you look at tutorials about making rag quilting, you'll see a lot of people say to use 3 layers of flannel. I live in the northeast part of Wisconsin. It gets a little bit cold here. We have the temperature set between 68 and 71, so it, you know, with the breeze, it gets a little coolish in here. So I wanted something a little bit more substantial. So I'm using some of my warm and natural batting. The batting is cut to 8 inches square. When I sew my seams, I don't want to have the thickness of the batting. I don't want to waste the batting that way. So I lay my 10-inch square piece, the solid first, a piece of batting, and then I go ahead and grab another piece of flannel. I'm starting off with my print, match it up as good as I can. I don't like to pin, you all know that. So in this case, I think I need to pin so everything isn't moving around. I take 2 pins and I pin them on each end. I can pin them here or I can pin them here. The reason I'm pinning them here and here, it's going to allow me to make my X, to sew my X this way, and complete my X on this side. So let me show you again how to put together a square. Take your square, take one of your squares for the bottom, place it on your cutting mat, matching up the edges to the grids. You're going to center your 8-inch square. You want to have an inch here of the bottom layers, inch here, and inch here. You are going to do a seam allowance of 1 inch when you are sewing. Now I want to make an opposite block, so I'm going to use 2 colors, 2 solid colors to make a block. Place it on top. Try to make sure that they're equal. And I think this square might be off just by a tad. But that's okay. I can fix that. Excuse me. Just make sure that everything is nice and equal. I could trim this off later after I sew it. Take my 2 pins, insert the pin, insert the pin, and then place it in my pile. I really don't have a count right now. I'm just going by the seat of my pants. I am already thinking that I'm going to need some more of this printed material, because I believe I might have enough of the solid. And of course I went out and got more solid when I realized that I needed more solid, because I was going to use the same solid for the backing, not thinking that I might need some more of this printed material. I have another one. Let me go ahead and make another one while we're sitting here together. Place it on my grid to make sure that I'm centering my batting 1 inch away from the edges all the way around. I can pretty much eyeball it, but better be safe than sorry. I'm doing this in pieces. I want to complete pinning all my pieces together, and then I'm going to move on to the machine and quilt. As you can see, I have my 2 piles of squares, and the next step is to quilt or make my X across each one of these squares. So until the next time, I'll show you how to do this on the machine. Right now we're going to put this off to the side and we're going to move on to do some other projects. Again, this is a journey video, part 1 of how I'm making a rag quilt. My name is Liz. We're at EMO's Creative Studio. Until the next time, happy sewing, happy quilting. Take care. Bye.